How did you accidentally discover your kink or fetish? Story 1. Back in high school, my boyfriend at the time were each other's firsts. About 95% of our spicy time took place in the backseat of his parents' SUV because he had a license and I shared a bedroom with my sister growing up. Number 1, we were fooling around one night and he wanted to see how far up his hand could go inside. We tried it. Didn't know I'd be into fist spicy time, but it really fills you up. Number 2, same guy but a few years later. We had broken up but still slept together regularly, and I thought we'd be getting back together eventually. All of a sudden, he tried a new move of completely pinning me down so I couldn't move while he was going down on me. Somehow, the restraint made it even hotter, until I found out that he learned that move from sleeping with someone else a few days before, and it kind of ruined that for me at the same time. And we start off with a 2-for-1, but apparently only one of them stuck. I wonder if she completely abandoned number 2. Do you think she was able to find someone she could trust to help her explore that more? Story 2. When I was 21, I had a friend with benefits. She was in her 40s and was a heavy lady who had big boobs that hung down to her belly button. The first time I saw her take her bra off and her boobs dropped and settled, I stopped liking perky boobs. Now I'm crazy for big, saggy, braless boobs. One night she asked if I would watch porn with her. She'd pick a video, then I would, and back and forth. I'd usually pick big boob or big beautiful woman videos. At first, so she wouldn't compare herself to the thin girls and get depressed, while she'd pick DP or multi-partner spicy time videos. After a few of these, I asked her what she liked about those, and she said she always felt fat and ugly, and the idea that 2 or 3 guys wanted to be with her so much that they didn't care if other guys were there too was a huge turn-on. That night, we explored with toys, and I learned that DP, DVP, MFM, multi-partner spicy time, fist spicy time were a huge turn-on for me too. It's cool when you find someone that vibes with your kink. I think there needs to be a follow-up to this story. How far did they explore? Did they find other people to help them out? How did those experiences go? This paragraph seems like a prologue to a much bigger story. Story 3. Science class in high school. They told me that a person's stomach was as big as their fist, and that thought stuck in my young, impressionable mind. Imagination ran wild, and I started thinking about girls eating other people. And lo and behold, vor fetish. As life went on, I relied on those fantasies to get me through tough times. Kind of like a safe place amongst all the events in my life. A place to hide. Though now I think of it more as a for fun thing. Started fantasizing about being put in other holes. And to soma. Weird stuff. I mean, in honesty, it's just a weird sidestep from BDSM. It's also the reason that I can't judge people's interests because I have a huge bunch of skeletons. I know what some of these are. I have to say, I don't understand them myself. It's not something that gets me going. I'm glad this guy realizes what they are. I don't think he's trying to be a cannibal or anything. But yeah, this is something I'll just read about. I'm not going to explore any further. Story 4. I was browsing Google with a buddy back in like 2002. We didn't get to use the internet much, so we thought Google was the bee's knees. And we decided to search up duct tape. We had rolls and rolls of the stuff to make roses and wallets and whatnot. We were obsessed with duct tape. One image we came across was a spicy image of a woman tied up and gagged with tape, bondage cord. He largely ignored it, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. I don't recall exactly how I was able to, but eventually I was able to use a PC alone and unattended. I searched up half a dozen bondage corn images and printed them off. I soloed to those same printed images an embarrassing number of times. I'm glad technology has allowed me to follow my fetish easily. I couldn't imagine trying to find fetish corn pre-internet. Story 5. Told this one before, but I'm a little bit pudgy, and one time was going at it with this absolute twig of a man. I'm talking about a man who looked like his back would snap if you made him try on a backpack. That skinny, scrawny. So I'm on top, and something about our position on the bed doesn't sit well with him. So without asking me to remove myself, he just straight up lifts us both up, crab walks across the bed, and lays back down. Bim, bam, boom. Niagara Falls in my pants. And that's how I discovered my strength kink. Story 6. I needed help overcoming minor dyslexia in my early years. In 3rd grade, I stayed after school 3 times a week to work with a teacher. I didn't quite piece all this together at the time, but she was young, 20-something, and very attractive. She would always, and I mean always, be wearing boots. Ankle boots, shin-high boots, knee-high boots, over-the-knee boots, leather, suede, black, brown. So my first experience spending regular time with a woman alone, other than my mother, was an attractive teacher who was in boots helping me with reading and grammar. grammar. My young brain must have used an association between boots and time spent with an attractive woman. Boot fetish? Check. Teacher fetish? Check. Reading grammar fetish? Not so much. Is there a reading or grammar fetish? Okay, I just said that out loud and just heard it out loud, and reading fetish. That's erotica. That one I get. But grammar fetish? People get mad over proper use of grammar. But does anyone get turned on by proper use of grammar? I mean, really? That's the question I have. I gotta look up what the official term is for that. Story 7. My boyfriend is bi and wanted man tube in his butt. Being a fairly soft and flowery person who was usually more submissive, I was a bit squeamish, but I'm a try anything once kind of girl. Figured I'd give pegging a go, which led to bondage, which led to choking. The more things we tried, the more submissive he became, and the more dominant I became. I thought I wasn't able to climax from just spicy time until I saw him writhing in pain. Turns out I'm certainly not more submissive and was hitting all the wrong buttons. Story 8. I'm surprised I haven't seen a similar story. When I was young, I would watch a lot of spicy cartoons. Almost strictly spicy cartoons. I noticed a lot of focus was put on the spicy cartoon girls' boobs, especially their nipples. It was so arousing and made my own nipples feel good to see. So I started touching them and pinching, squeezing, stroking, finding things that can simulate them being sucked on. I invested so much time into my nipples as a preteen, and I still love it to this very day. It almost makes me climax. It feels so amazing and different. Story 9. Was drunk one night in college, and an older woman at the bar was talking and said, "You're cute, but don't know if you can handle me." Pretty much told her to do her worst. Went home with her and had the most intense spicy tingle of my life at that point. Actually ended up hooking with her on and off throughout my senior year. She was single, but had business all over the country, so it was sort of whenever she wanted it. Learned that I am into slightly older, full-figured, and very spicy dominant women. Let me tell you guys, this has been an extremely difficult fetish to fulfill on an even remotely consistent basis. Ooh, realized what he wanted and had a full tap ready to go, and now has trouble finding a source to tap. That kinda sucks. It's good to know what you want. It's bad that you can't find anything to help. I hope he finds the resources that'll help him out. Story 10. When I was studying at the university, a friend of mine and I were talking about sleeping patterns, and I mentioned I had a hard time staying in bed if I didn't fall asleep. She jokingly mentioned that she should tie me down to the bed so I couldn't leave. I laughed it off and said she never dare do that. But lo and behold, one night when I was dozing off at a house party, I found myself constrained to the bed and found it surprisingly arousing. Nothing ever happened between us, but a fetish was born that night. Story 11. So I was with my boyfriend at the time, and he asked if I wanted to go to the library at our high school, which was code for let's go mess around. I agreed and went with him, but that day he was in a real crummy mood. So when he started kissing me, he wrapped his hand around my neck and started choking me. I actually moaned, and he chuckled and started calling me his dirty little plaything while squeezing my boobs. Normally he was gentle and it turned me on, but by the time we left that day, my knees were weak and was freaking wet as hell. Story 12. I was in a crummy marriage and reading and watching lots of Christian YouTube and blogs trying to figure out how to make things work by following all the advice of what a good wife is. One day, I stumbled upon the concept of a husband disciplining his wife with spankings. My ex wasn't interested, but my current husband loves it. Turns out I'm not religious. I'm just into BDSM, and submissive Christian wife blogs were the spiciest gateway substance to the kinky submission I'm actually interested in. That kinda tracks. Pressure creates substances we probably didn't expect to find. Pressure on coal creates diamonds. Societal pressure on people creates kinks. It's one of those laws of the universe. Story 13. Hanging out with a slightly older married couple while in my early 20s, drinking and having a good time. The wife worked with special needs teens. I can't recall how it happened, but somehow got either dared or lost a game, and the result was I had to wear one of the diapers she had from work. I was pretty skinny back then, still kind of am, so it fit. It was a point of inner reflection for me. The husband couldn't stop laughing and calling me cute. Yes, I ended up going to bed with both of them. More than a decade later, and now I have a storage tote full of things that would require me to move states away if discovered by anyone I know. Story 14. I have a lot of them, but the whole sounding thing came from when in high school some classmates were passing around a shotcorn video, wherein there's a POV of a chick who is giving oral spicy time to a guy, and then all of a sudden just shoves a thin object into the guy's urethra. My friends were all grossed out and tried to get me with it, and I had a different reaction. Actually, that's kinda hot. That's how I got here. Story 15. Wife told me a joke regarding a position called bucking bronco, where you start doggy style, start yelling her sister's name, and then try to hang on for dear life. Later, while having spicy doggy style, I reference the joke and say her sister's name. Boing! Man tube turned into a diamond cutter. It turns out I have a thing for the dude's role in the Joaquin dynamic where I have hot spicy time with other women in front of my humiliated wife. This type of fetish is more common seeing the woman in the dominant role, and the man in the role. I don't remember seeing much of the man in that role. I guess in that instance it turns into dominance and submission for a lot of people. I think there's a subtle difference between those two categories. Story 16. Okay, so I'm really into girls with short hair. And by saying short, I mean it. I can take a bullet in my stomach for a pretty woman with a buzz cut. I was new to English at the time, so I didn't know the word buzz cut. Instead of using buzz cut, I searched porn by writing shaved head woman. It turned out that shaving hair was a thing in the BDSM community. It was a wild ride. Cages, handcuffs, collars, chains. Story 17. Mine's sort of wholesome. I was drunk for the first time at a party with a boy. We had been flirting for months, but nothing really happened yet. I bumped into him in the bathroom, and we hooked up on the spot. He said it was the first time he had ever had all 3 holes. Cringe teenage boy talk. Anyway, now butt stuff is my favorite. His too. We're still together. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video, and have a wonderful day. Story 18. Watching a cam girl. She was doing ice play. I dared her to shove a cube up her butt. In return, I had to do it too and send her a video. Endless hours of fun later. Every girl I meet has to try it now. You know those people that do polar bear swimming, where they cut holes in a frozen lake and dive into the icy water? I've always shivered when I saw them doing that. But leaps and bounds, I would rather do that than what they're talking about in this story. Would not try this even once. Story 19. I was in Mass, then the priest tried to guilt us, telling us to imagine we were Jesus' executioners whenever we sin. To paraphrase, imagine you are the one stripping the clothes from his body. Imagine the whip in your hand, beating our Lord. I got a boner. Damn, you Catholics be wildin'. Story 20. Was at my girlfriend's apartment as she was making dinner. She was chopping up some carrots with a kitchen knife and said she'd need a little bit of my carrot. I said I was a bit exhausted from work. She jokingly brandished the knife and said, "You can either use it or lose it." Instantly rock solid. Apparently, I have a thing for spicy aggressive women. I think a lot of guys want women who are at least assertive, who know what they want. They're so used to dealing with girls who are dropping hints and being demure and passive. I can imagine why some guys would want someone who's more overt. Story 21. My main fetish is something I've never seen anyone else describe, so posting here for science. I guess it's more of a context than an act. I'm turned on by nakedness or any spicy shenanigans in front of roaring fireplaces. Whether it's a spicy striptease or just vanilla spicy time, it's a big deal for me. Never seen anything vaguely familiar described. Story 22. I went to the library to pick a book for a report back in grade 7. The one I picked was about a girl who travels back in time. Something about it stood out for me. While reading it, I got to a scene where she's forced to get her hair cut. Reading it made me feel oddly aroused, so I kept reading it over and over. Story 23. Was seeing someone for a while when I told her she deserved a spanking. Took her over my knee, jeans and panties off, and gave her 20 good smacks on both cheeks. When she got up, she was breathing hard, and there was a sizable wet spot on my thigh. Light BDSM became a part of our lives thereafter. Aw, that's kind of wholesome. I'm glad they discovered something together. Seems like both of them were involved, and it turns both of them on. I hope they're still together. Story 24. Having spicy time with my boyfriend, and he said, "If you don't stop, I'm going to finish inside you." Somehow it got me even wetter than it already was. I'm not on the pill though, so I just asked him to talk about it when we have spicy time, since we can't actually do it. Story 25. I was 14 or so, jumping on a trampoline with one of my close girlfriends. We laid down after bouncing around for a while, and she put her feet on me and then started playing around and putting them in my face. My shorts' elastic waistband was really put to the test that day. Ah, yes, the foot fetish. It almost feels vanilla now, but this one feels a little different. Was it the smell, or was it the shape of the foot? There's a bit of a difference there. Story 26. One of my female friends was hugging me from behind, and her lips brushed against my neck. Every muscle in my body tightened. I let out a sigh, got goosebumps, then got my girlfriend at the time to kiss my neck and give me hickeys. Story 27. I was watching my morning cartoons while getting ready for school in like 4th grade or something. Bowser had Princess Peach tied up on a machine with a wheel of feathers tickling her feet. I'm pretty sure that woke up like 7 different fetishes in me. Story 28. Grew up very conservative Catholic and knew looking up corn or girls having spicy time was wrong. Still wanted to see naked girls. But since they weren't real people, cartoon corn wasn't a sin, right? And spicy cartoons. It's amazing what you can do with the power of imagination. If you look up the origins of spicy cartoons, there's some crazy things happening there. A lot of it was invented to skirt morality laws. Forget necessity being the mother of invention. Desperate passion as the mother of invention. Story 29. Remember the scene in Batman Forever when Poison Ivy hypnotizes the guards into mindlessly adoring her, then unalives them with her poison lips? Yeah, that did weird things to my barely pubescent pants. Story 30. I recently found out that I'm a bit of a switch. I used to think I was exclusively submissive until I met this guy who really liked being dominated. It's nice though, because he's a switch too, so we can usually both dominate in the same session. Story 31. Well, my ex, before she was my ex, was a heavier girl, and after our first year together began to realize that I like plus-size women. Yeah, I'm into that super thick stuff, and I don't have any issues with it. There are a lot of people that have preferences to what is not shown in usual media. I kinda think if you want equality in different body sizes, you have to look to the corn sites. Some fashion stores are trying to keep up with the different types of body types, but they don't compare. Of course, you have the question about whether it's actual equality or if it's just objectifying people. That's a whole other discussion. Story 32. When roomed with a 6'4" college hockey player cosplaying as Madoka Kaname for an anime convention and realized he had more fun with that than the sport he'd been playing for years. Story 33. Actually, I was young and experimental. There was a little silicone rubber type of tube nearby that was able to fit in my man tube. Guess where I put it? Side note, the burning for a week didn't feel nice. Story 34. When I was a kid, I knew this girl that was heavily into dance and gymnastics. One day we were playing Truth or Dare, and she had to flash me. She lifted up her skirt and showed me the best six-pack I've ever seen. Instant boner. Ever since then, I've been into girls with abs. And again, we have a kink towards a body type. And again, we have to look to the spicy cartoons that help fuel a lot of this for a lot of people. That kinda goes hand in hand with the thick thighs kind of people. But there are also those that have a fit girl type of preference. Ta-da! Equality! Story 35. I was hooking up with this guy for the first time and he choked me in bed. I learned real fast how much I enjoyed that. My current boyfriend doesn't like the whole choking thing. Story 36. Was looking through a pro wrestling magazine at a bookstore. At the back of it, there were all these ads for videos of buff chicks crushing guys between their legs and physically dominating them. Story 37. When I started taking a high interest in fit, strong, aggressive women in the media I watched and read. So much so, I started reading fanfiction, including some cringy ones. Do you think part of a kink is knowing when to laugh at yourself for having the kink? I think self-awareness has to play a part in it. Being aware and knowing what you're doing and knowing it's not exactly what everybody is into, I think it's kind of healthy. Not to denigrate yourself, unless that's part of your kink. And again, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Story 38. When I lost my virginity and got my head slammed into the headboard by accident. I loved the pain of it, and I spicy tinkled so fast. And that's how I got into beating during spicy times. Story 39. The earliest I can remember was seeing Catwoman tied up on a conveyor belt, watching Batman the Animated Series growing up. Story 40. A girl sat on my face all of a sudden and told me to get to work. Boss, F-lump, you're late again. And what in the world is that woman doing on your face? Ooh, another one of those specializations that get joked around a lot in mainstream media. Heard quite a few about this one. Again, be interested to know what exactly it is that turns someone on about this. Is it the pressure on your face? Hopefully it doesn't mean you only think you deserve to get close to that part of someone by having them sit on you as a punishment. Not sure. Maybe give me a comment and enlighten me. Story 41. I got turned on by the sound of a girl peeing when I was in first grade. Does the sound of frying or grilling chicken on a skillet do anything for you? Story 42. My earliest searches were naturally for boobs, which led to searching for big boobs. That path led me to discover breast expansion, a fetish for boobs that became big. Story 43. When I was 7 or 8, would make my Barbie kiss Ken. Then I wondered if my Barbie could kiss her friend Teresa. They kissed and then got naked. You know, we got that Barbie live-action movie coming up. This person must really be looking forward to this. I wonder how many kids that played with Barbie growing up lean towards that fetish. I wonder if the movie makers are gonna lean into that if it's a substantial amount. Story 44. I was doing clinicals at the ER and an attractive football player came in with a broken clavicle. Seeing him in pain, awakened something in me. Story 45. I was a Boy Scout. When my ex-wife found out, she asked me to bring home some rope. Now I like bondage. Story 46. Saw a bad dragon thing on Corn Pub, then found furry corn, and now I'm a disappointment. It's okay. I'm sure you were always a disappointment. Again, I think this is someone who can laugh about himself and be self-aware. Hopefully this other person's comment was also kind of gentle ribbing and not being mean. I think part of laughing at yourself is also a way to help you accept yourself. I think this person seems to get that. Story 47. My girlfriend was giving me oral spicy time. She went in to finish, but busted a second too soon and ended up spraying all over her face. Story 48. I have like 97 of the fetishes here. Even the one about counting toes to the Barney and Friends toe counting song? Story 49. Lost my virginity to a chubby girl, and now I have a sickness for the thickness. So much squish, so meaty, so soft and cuddly. You ever hear of the band Spinal Tap? They got a great song for you. You should look it up. It's called Big Bottom. Trust me. Story 50. In the showers after swim practice, two of the guys were competing who could pee the farthest and got rock hard. That was that. Story 51. Watched Korn for the first time. Clicked BDSM fetish. It was a wild ride. Really roped you in, huh? Story 52. It all started on a video when someone asked about accidentally discovering kinks. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I think for some people that are watching this or listening to these stories are going to be discovering some things about themselves, or exploring whether they're discovering those things about themselves, or having something click into place after reading all of this stuff. If you discovered something watching this video, congratulations. Story 53. A girl sat on my face once when I was a kid. Then she farted. Welp. Story 54. I felt something lovely while listening to some people's voices talking slowly. Slowly or softly? Because I think you just described ASMR. If it's softly, I can understand. But if it's slowly, what do you think about turtles? Do those do anything for you? Story 55. I read a Hardy Boys book. I'm getting a raging clue right now. Story 58. I called him Daddy as a joke once, and it turned out we both actually liked it. Story 57. Shout out to the Sears catalogs, lingerie section. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.